Invincible Season 2. We are back. So this is the first episode of Invincible Season 2. Technically, the season, we had a special for the second season, the Adam Eve special, which was a couple of months ago, which I absolutely loved, and I did a review on when it came out. So this is the first official episode of the second season that isn't a special, and it was fantastic. I loved it. I am so glad Invincible's back. I'm glad for Invincible Fridays. I absolutely love this show, and I'm a big fan of the comic book. So this episode is mostly to catch us up, to see where the characters are and set up the future threat for this season. So, we see where Mark and Debbie are after, Omni-Man pretty much destroyed their family. We see where the Guardians of the Globe are as a team after they kind of united at the end of the first season. And we kind of see what's going on with the planet. And like I said, and then we slowly set up the big threat for this season. Overall, it was a fantastic episode. It does a lot of good stuff. It doesn't have a big, crazy ending, but it does have a good pop of an ending. But it does let us know where our characters are at and, setting up this threat that, if you read the comics, you absolutely know what's coming and it's going to be freaking fantastic. So I want to talk spoilers. There's no reason to talk about this episode without going into spoilers. Like I said, it's fantastic. If you love the first season, you're going to love this episode, and you're going to probably love the rest of the season because the animation quality has improved. They really have the story down. As someone who's read the comic, they get all the important stuff, and they have a good pacing. So it's a fantastic animated show. Bloody violence, great characters. So absolutely go watch it. If you haven't watched Invincible, definitely go watch it. And like I said, if you've seen the first season, you're gonna love this season, at least from this first episode and the special we've gotten so far. So spoilers, like I said, this season sets up what our threat is, and it kind of starts off in the beginning of the episode. So the beginning of the episode, where we see Invincible fighting the Immortal, and it looks like he's just kind of mad at Invincible for everything that happened in the first season. But then Omni-Man shows up, and he helps Invincible kill the Immortal, and Invincible completely smashes his head. And we're still not sure what's happening. It looks like Omni-Man came back, and maybe Invincible changed his mind, and decided to join him to take over the planet. And then we follow this hooded man, Armstrong Levy, and Armstrong Levy, and he slowly walks to the secret base where we see there's a resistance movement, and we see Eve, who has like scars and her hair is completely chopped off, Robot, and then Rudy in his big little tank thing. And Angstrom went to get this power core for this gun, and they ask him about him. They ask him if he was followed, and he's like, no, the Immortal led him away. And he was just like, yeah, that's what Rex said, before they obviously killed him. And all of a sudden, Omni-Man and Invincible show up, and they start fighting everyone. Omni-Man easily kills Robot and Rudy. He just decimates them. They're like nothing to him. Like, he does this chop, which chops Robot in half, and it's so freaking fast and powerful. It looks like he just melted right through it, like he was a laser or something. Really cool scene. And Invincible, he beats Eve, and then it looks like he kills her. He snaps her freaking neck, and then Omni-Man shows up, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry you had to do that. He's like, oh, no, don't be, I didn't kill her, I just paralyzed her. You can see that she's like still alive and kind of crying because she's paralyzed. He's like, it's sad and everything, but at least I'll be able to visit her in a hospital or something like that. And Omni-Man's like, oh, I was wondering what you were doing last week to all those protesters. I thought you were just killing them or something. He's like, no, I was practicing, paralyzing instead of killing someone, which is completely psychotic. So they go over to the rest of the resistance, and they're all like, well, we're gonna have to kill you guys because you decided to rebel. So let's just get this over with. And Angstrom is like, no, he does a speech of how they're gonna defeat him and evil will never win or whatever. And Omni-Man's just like, okay, whatever, yeah, we're done. He's like, I didn't eat lunch earlier, we need to kill all these guys so I can go get a meal. It just shows how ruthless and more Invincible and Omni-Man could be. And then a portal opens up and Angstrom like falls through, and Invincible's like, "What the heck was that? A portal?" And Omni-Man's like, "Who cares? Let's just get this over with." And it turns out, you know, that this Angstrom and everything was happening is from an alternate world where Mark decided to join Omni-Man and freaking, you know, just take over the planet. Because there's an alternate version of Angstrom who has the ability to open portals to all kinds of different dimensions. He was just kind of, I believe he was born with it. They don't really explain it in the comics or anything. I think they just say he was born with it. But then we go to our reality, or Invincible Mark's main reality. We see where he's at. He's at the mountain where his dad beat him up and it's all bloody and everything. And then we go into this montage where he's kind of helping all kinds of people, putting out fires, stopping bank robbers, helping people get to the hospital, all kinds of stuff like that. And we kind of see that, you know, what happened with his dad is really affecting him. Like, he sees these supervillains attacking or robbing this bank and a bunch of police there, and he gets angry, and you can just see the anger in him, and he just starts having a flashback of everything that happened to him. And but he sees that the police and everyone has it under control, so he leaves. And this is kind of Mark's kind of dilemma where he's at right now. He's very sad and depressed. You know, the first season he wanted to be his dad. In this second season, he's afraid that he will become his dad, this horrible person who did all these horrible things. And, you know, eventually he has a conversation with Eve where he's just like, I need to be out there. I need to be making up for everything that me and my dad did. And he's just like, you didn't do anything, you know? It's not your fault that your dad, you know, essentially went crazy and killed all these people and destroyed all these things. He's like, you stopped him. You saved so many lives that day. But Mark still feels this regret. He's just like, no, you know, just like, I'm part of the problem. I was there. I couldn't stop him sooner. You know, he's my father. So he feels a little obligated that, you know, he needs to help to make up for all the things that happened in the first season at the end of the first season. So, and I'm skipping a lot of things because, like I said, it's a good episode. Go watch it. So I just want to talk about the big things. So we also see Debbie, who is struggling. You know, she's drinking a lot. She's sad and depressed because, yeah, you know, her husband said she was essentially a pet, betrayed her world and her, and almost beat her son to death. So she's very depressed. And Olga, a friend of hers who is the wife of Red Rush, one of the original Guardians of the Globes who was killed by Omni-Man, shows up and they have a conversation about all the stuff she's going through. And she gives her this card with like this Morse code that I believe says SOS on it to get her help that she needs. That wasn't in the comics, I believe. In the comics, she makes friends with the wife of this other superhero that called Super Patriot that is a character created not by Robert Kirkman. I forget who created it. He's the guy who created Savage Dragon, and I'm just drawing a blank for whatever reason. Sorry. Anyway, so he's not really part of this continuity, so I think they're doing a little different thing to get her the assistance she needs. I guess we'll see. But anyway, we see that Mark and Debbie are just kind of having a hard time. And then we see the Guardians of the Globe. They're fighting this giant who's red with one eye. He's essentially a little kid in a giant's body. They explain it a little bit more in the comic. In this, they're like, oh, he has the mind of a child, but I think he's supposed to be a child who was turned into a giant. Either way, they have they're having a hard time fighting him and defeating him, and Cecil's just like, how are they taking so long to defeat this, you know, this threat? And during the fight, Rudy, inside the robot suit now as a human, like, he freezes like during the battle because he kind of gets scared. And Monster Girl is just like, well, before you were in a robot and it was essentially a video game, but now you're actually in the battle, so you're gonna feel that fear and adrenaline and everything. So after the battle, Cecil's just like, you guys are not doing good. You're really slow. You're taking forever to defeat these threats. You're causing all kinds of chaos and everything like that. So even though they came together at the end of the first season, they're still kind of a mess. So he's like, I'm bringing in some new blood. He's like, first of all, the new leader of the team is Immortal. And there's a funny scene with Immortal and Rexplode, who's just like, you just were waiting for him to introduce you before you flew in all dramatically. Very funny. And then the second you recruit is Bulletproof. He is also a super powerful, kind of like Superman type character. We don't learn a lot about him in this episode. He just kind of joins the team. So we'll learn about him later, I'm sure. Anyway, like I said, the big threat of this season, like that was everything with like our main characters for the most part. But then throughout the episode, Angstrom has been doing stuff in the background, and we really don't know what. Like you said, he saved his alternate counterpart, and then he saves the Maulers from jail, and then we see that he saved them from jail to build this big machine because he wants to implant all the memories of all his alternate universe people into his mind, because he wants to make the world a better place. He wants to gain that knowledge to improve his universe and then go into other universes and pass on that knowledge. But he says that every universe is unique and has one special thing at least that we can use in our universe. You know, they have different Shakespeare stories we've never heard. They have medical technology and knowledge that we just do not have. So he wants to gain all this knowledge to improve the world and then, you know, like I said, pass it on. So he gets the Maulers to build this big machine so he can get all the knowledge of all his alternate universe selves. So when the machine finally activates and they're starting to transplant those memories into Angstrom's mind, Invincible shows up. Cecil finally lets him work for him again, keeping him on a tight leash. So he's like, your first mission is to go see what they're doing and stop them. So he shows up and Cecil's like, what's going on? He's like, well, there's like this mechanical Christmas tree with all the same kind of person on it, and the Maulers and all kinds of craziness is happening. But the Maulers, you know, they don't like Invincible, so they start fighting Invincible. And Angstrom is actually a good person, you know, so he's like, stop, don't beat him up, you know, I'm not gonna have my utopia bloodied by, you know, a death of a person. But he's also trying to stop Invincible because Invincible is trying to stop the machine. So he gets all these other alternate Maulers to show up, and they start beating the hell out of Invincible, and they almost kill him. So Angstrom just gets mad, and he starts taking off his helmet. He's like, no, don't kill him, don't kill him. So when he takes off the helmet, it causes this explosion that pretty much looks like it kills everyone except for Invincible. And then the Guardians of the Glow show up, and they're like, oh, you did a good job, and Invincible is upset. He's like, no one deserved this. The Maulers didn't deserve this. I wasn't able to save anyone. Like I said, he still feels bad about not being able to save people, and he wants to save people. He doesn't just want to kill these villains or anything like that. So he feels bad about it. But Cecil and the Guardians are like, no, you did the right thing. Who knows what they were going to do? Even though it was a machine that was going to be used for good, they didn't know that. The Maulers are bad guys, so it could have been a bomb for all they know. They acted a little too quickly, but, you know, it is what it is. But, the show ends with him flying off, and he goes home. He gets accepted into college. Him and Amber open up a car, and he's accepted into college. Maybe that happened earlier, but he gets accepted into college, and he makes his mom dinner, and he goes out for a walk, and the Immortal shows up, and he's like, you know, everyone else might trust you, but I don't trust you, and I'm watching you. And the show pretty much ends with, like I said again, Invincible making dinner for his mom. And then you're like, okay, we didn't get a title card thing. You know, in the past season, every time they said his name, and be like, I'm Invincible, and then the title card would pop up with his name instead of saying the word. They kept teasing it throughout the episode. It was like a running joke where they're like, he's Invincible. You know, they would pause, so you're thinking the title card would pull up. Anyway, we get a mid-credit scene at the explosion. And one of the Maulers survives, and he's, you know, half of him is completely destroyed and everything. And he hears a sound, and he thinks it's his clone brother. So he goes over there, but it's Angstrom. And Angstrom is all kinds of messed up too. Looks like he has like a giant brain on his head, going all the way to his back. And he pretty much has gone crazy, because since the machine exploded, all the memories didn't go into his brain. Well, they kind of did, but he can't remember who he is anymore. Like, he believes all his memories were his. So, like they say earlier in the episode, that in most universes, Invincible joins Omni-Man and becomes evil. So, he has a lot of memories of all these Angstroms who remember all kinds of evil Invincibles. And that's kind of why they showed him that Angstrom in the beginning of the show. And they showed him a few times throughout the episode in the facility working with Angstrom on the machine, that, you know, this guy hates Invincible. So Angstrom goes crazy, and he's just like, you know, Invincible did this to me. He destroyed me. He destroyed my work and everything. He killed so many people. He killed so many of my loved ones. And the Mauler's just like, no, that wasn't you. You can't remember who you are anymore. It's because you messed yourself up. It wasn't Invincible. You did this to yourself. But Angstrom's just like, no, he did it. And he's like, I won't stop until I kill Invincible. And it goes to the title screen, which is all bloody from the last season, but then the background turns all black and the words turn red, and then we just kind of get cracks in it instead of blood. I'm not sure what that's going to be. Maybe it cracks completely to reveal alternate dimension or something. I guess we'll see. But that was the first episode. Like I said, it was really fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, we just kind of get, to see where our characters are at and introduce our new villain, Angstrom Levy, which, if you've read the comics, he is a force. And you are going to remember him. This first season, he's probably not going to go as hard as he does a little bit later. But he is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And it's going to be really good to see him in his animated form and really let loose and everything. So it's going to be a lot of fun. He's a good villain. So this might not be a big shocker like the end of the first episode in the first season, but trust me, when people watch this entire season, I think they're going to go back and realize how big and important this moment really is. So overall, fantastic episode. Really loved it, really enjoyed it. Like I said, if you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's fantastic. Good first episode for the second season. So that's pretty much it. What did you think? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Are you interested to see what's going to happen in the season? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.